Hey Charlie, this is Rob Eno from Red Mass Group. We're sitting down with Charlie Baker again for a campaign update since the last time we sat down and talked. And I guess the first question is, how are things going? What's coming up in the near future?
Things are going really well. 2010 is off with a bang, obviously. The big event in 2010 so far was Scott Brown's race, which was a transformational event, I think, here in Massachusetts, and one that not only sent a message to Washington about the need for checks and balances and sort of a big change in philosophy around governing, but it sends the same message here in Massachusetts to Beacon Hill, which is that it's time to create some checks and balances here. I know that there are a tremendous number of people who are very fired up about this, and I'd include myself in that category as well. I think it gives everybody who's looking to challenge the status quo and the same old on Beacon Hill a huge opening, and I'm hopeful that a whole bunch of other people will choose to jump in to those congressional and state senate and state rep races. It's a great opportunity.
What's going on in your campaign? The caucuses are happening. How are those going? And
Caucuses so far, Richard Tassay and I have been spreading out over Massachusetts, and we've been hitting as many of them as we can. That's usually 2 or 3 a night, but obviously there are 250 of them plus or minus going on over these 12 days, so we're missing a bunch of them, but we've been keeping tabs and paying attention to a lot of our friends and a lot of different locations, and we feel pretty good about how we're doing so far. And the best part of all is, and this may have something to do with Scott's race as well, the turnout at him has been fabulous. I think the other big thing that's going on for us is we're going to do a sort of 2010 kickoff this weekend. We're going to start in Boston at Faneuil Hall on Saturday morning, and then we're going to go out and spend Saturday afternoon in Springfield, and then we're going to go to Lowell and Worcester on Sunday to hold town halls there as well, and to really get people fired up for this next phase, which is the run between now and the convention in April, and then ultimately the run through the election in the fall. Our website at charliebaker2010.com will be taking RSVPs for all of those events starting today, and I think that's a great way for people to sort of check in with us, join Team Baker, and get involved, and we'll be able to keep you informed about how we're doing once you get in and get involved, and also sign up to come to one of these events this weekend and kick our tires and get a sense about what's up with us.
Excellent. Today, Governor Patrick released his budget for fiscal year 2011. Do you have any thoughts on that?
My big thought on his fiscal 2011 budget is just the same old thing. There's really not a lot of structural reform in there. It's not going to get us out of the jam that we're in. It's not going to provide the sort of predictable, stable message that we need to be sending to families and businesses in Massachusetts that the state has its act together and has stuff under control. There's $600 million in phantom federal revenue in there, which may or may not ever materialize. It spends another $175 million out of our rainy day fund, which I think we're probably going to need this year to balance the budget. And there really isn't any structural reform to speak of at all. I mean, we really need to take advantage of this fiscal crisis to do some of the shrinking and downsizing and simplifying of state government that people have talked about for a really long time and never really got around to pursuing. This is as good a shot as we're ever going to have, and right now these folks are missing it.
Understand what, if you were to say what your top priorities, where you think we can shrink government the most, what would be the top 2 that you think we could do?
We have 50 agencies issuing 1,000 licenses. The issuance of a license is not that complicated a transaction. We should be able to do that in a centralized way. This is 2010. The technology is certainly there. We don't need to be doing this 50 different ways for 1,000 licenses. Health and Human Services, an agency I know well, instead of cutting programs to serve people in Health and Human Services who are disabled, which is what the administration's proposing, we should be getting serious about creating kind of a unified and singular structure in Health and Human Services is the most fragmented part of state government, yet a lot of the people who are served by it are served by multiple agencies that in many cases end up working at cross purposes with each other. Let's think about it as a single entity that services people in a variety of different ways and create an organized approach to that presumes that, you know, a family that's being served now by 5 or 6 agencies and has 5 or 6 case managers would probably be a heck of a lot better off with one instead of doing it the way we're doing now.
And finally, I guess, last week, about a week ago, we had one of the biggest upsets in political history. A lot of different people are taking a lot of different things from it. The president and his team seem to think that the same forces that elected him elected Scott Brown. What do you take from that election? Where do you what type of game changer do you think it is?
I think Scott Brown was talking about what people wanted to hear their public officials talking about. Jobs, spending, taxes, getting people back to work. His message over and over and over again was, we're spending too much money, we're either taxing too much now or we're going to have to tax too much going forward because of all the money we're spending. That's not going to help get people back to work. It's not going to reduce the unemployment rate. And by the way, I'm the guy who can bring checks and balances back to Washington, D.C. by being that 41st senator. And I think that message, frankly, plays really well here in Massachusetts. It's what we've been saying ever since I got into this campaign. And it's frankly a message that I think a lot of Republicans can use in 2010. Because it's the right one and it's what people care about.
Excellent. And finally, where can people go again to get information about the events this weekend?
CharlieBaker2010.com. They'll be able to sign up and RSVP there, get an electronic ticket and print it. It is an RSVP event. We have to be able to keep track of the numbers, but we certainly hope we have a great turnout, and we're looking forward to using this as a launch pad for the rest of 2010, which we believe will be a great year for change agents and challengers, and we happen to expect to be both.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Charlie.